about being in the war.
Ready to go whenever.
How's the sound?
It
Sounds
should be
good.
fine.
Should be
Okay.
fun.
Out of all of the people that you interviewed before, did they enlist or were most of them distracted?
Of the people that we interviewed from World War II, almost all were drafted. Korea, the same thing. Vietnam, more people were drafted than enlisted.
Okay. What was like boot camp training? What was that like?
Everybody describes boot camp as being a period of hell in their lives, but once everybody got done, they felt very good about themselves. They said, I can do this, I can handle this. And so probably one in every 100 got, failed boot camp. But usually what they did is they ran you through it again.
When after being enlisted or brought into the army, how would people like stay in touch with family members?
During the Vietnam War, we'd just gotten into the period of those really cheap audio cassette tape players.
Yeah.
So a lot of people sent cassettes back and forth. Otherwise, it was still mail. World War II is mail, and it was very tough to get that, sent back and forth. They had something called V-mail, which basically was a letter which was retyped and put on microfilm. In Vietnam, the mail was pretty quick, less than a week, so you get a message home.
A lot of time. What was the food like?
Everybody that I talk to who talks about the food in Vietnam talks about the rations that they had to have, and they were not good. When you got good food, you always sort of worried because it sounded like maybe it was a new offensive, a big mission. In other words, they always fed you well when they were going to send you out into a dangerous place. That was especially true in World War II. Guys invading Iwo Jima got a really great meal on the ship before they went ashore.
How did they deal with the stress of being out in the battlefield and being away from family?
I think everybody dealt with stress differently. During World War II, I think a lot of people were religious and dealt with stress through their religious convictions. In Vietnam, there was, it appears, more dependency on alcohol or sometimes drugs, a way to escape.
What is your opinion on war?
My opinion on war.
In general.
Okay. In general. As a historian, we look at war as that geopolitical issues that has nothing to do with people. It has everything to do with what country is trying to take advantage, what country is trying to do a power move. And so when you look at war, you look at it from the point of view of what is happening in the international community. When you look at war from the point of view of the individual, you have to understand that people commit themselves to be in a war zone, and oftentimes they don't know why. But they believe in their commander-in-chief, they believe in their country enough to participate, and in some cases, of course, to die for it. But when you're on the ground, people aren't thinking about whether this is a war that they want to support or not. It is survival.
One more. I think we just have one more quick question. What do you think? Do you think that we should house atomic bombs or nuclear weapons just for safety, or?
But obviously, the nuclear war stockpile that we still have is a result of the Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
Most people believe politicians are smart enough to not use them. But when those bombs and those nuclear warheads fall into the hands of third parties, perhaps terrorists, that's something to be very worried about. So the answer is there will always be nuclear weapons as a deterrent. The deterrent is not the old Soviet Union, perhaps, but a deterrent, who knows for what. There's also a really great interest, as is the case in Pakistan, where there are nuclear weapons. When a country falls into chaos, and they've got nuclear weapons, what are we going to do? Better to get them out from under everybody's control.
Yeah.
I also have a question.
Sure.
As a soldier fighting in a war, what would the rights and responsibilities be of them?
Everybody who has fought, certainly World War II through Vietnam, is made aware of what your rights are in terms of the Geneva Convention. Okay, if captured, you have these rights. In the more recent period, assume that still continues, but every soldier knows that they have rights with regard to the opposition. You also have moral rights and ethical rights for the side that you are fighting on. And those rights are spelled out when you go into a conflict, and it's the responsibility of your officers to make sure that you do not go in excess of what those are. In other words, you cannot kill civilians, you cannot mistreat the general population. Things like Guantanamo Bay or Abu Ghraib point out that at times, some people go beyond it. It's always a very difficult call to be